Why is the Apple community so toxic? Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Thanks so much for being here. If this is your first time here, then thank you for showing up. And if you want to come back again, you can figure out how to do that later on. And if you've been here before, I really do appreciate you showing up as well. You guys are the rocks that underpin my foundation, whatever that means. So there are two binaries for people who cover Apple products either on YouTube or elsewhere, and there's really no in between. You fall into one of those two categories. They are, you're being negative about Apple for the sake of views. Now, I have fallen into this category in this iPhone season, Unbox Therapy also, and probably a lot of other people. The other category is the Apple shill, which would include people like Talos of Tech, maybe John Morrison, some folks like that, who are generally very positive about Apple products. Why is it that there's no middle ground when it comes to talking about Apple and their devices? Why is the discussion always so toxic? First, Apple is special because they've earned a cult-like following around the company and their products, which is great business practice if you can get it done. In order to understand that better, if you want to do some research, I recommend checking out Patrick Hanlon's book, Primal Branding, for a better understanding of how companies like Apple build the kind of following that borders on being like a religion or a cult or something. When Apple fans are challenged, they resort to their basest instincts to protect the brand they love. They place reductive labels on creators like hater or shill or something like that, so the creator can be dismissed outright, so the viewer can hold on to their products and their identity-defining beliefs unchallenged, no matter what side of the fence they fall on the Apple debate. Let me ask you this. What if we for once took each creator at face value as someone who is guided by the desire to provide an honest opinion from their perspective, not to serve an agenda that will get them views or that will get them paid or whatever it is that people think happen? What would happen then in this whole conversation? If the viewer took the creator's opinion at face value, they would then be inclined to compare those opinions against their own. That kind of vulnerability seems to be incredibly frightening to viewers on either side of the fence. Would it be so bad to allow your opinion to be challenged by another? No, not really. And for better or worse, we live in a culture that is much more comfortable dealing in blacks and whites instead of gray. A lot of people draw a lot of their identity from the products that they use, specifically brands like Apple, which connote an entire lifestyle instead of just a choice in a mobile device. For some reason, we tend to equate our worth based on the products we own, and for many, that veneer is so thin that any challenge from anyone is a threat. And it's that insecurity in the viewer that creates the binary good, bad labels that condemn creators on either side of the doing it for views or shill for the company different camps. I named my channel Painfully Honest Tech because I set out to be as honest as I can be about the products that I look at and review. I set out to remain agnostic toward the brands and their entrenched communities as much as possible. Being agnostic allows me to see the good and bad in products, and it also allows me to play devil's advocate and sort of maybe tweak people who are just acting like blind followers. I've said many times that I've been an Apple user for decades and still prefer Apple products on a regular basis. But because I've been critical of the new iPhones and Apple's business practices surrounding them, I've been labeled a hater or going for the negativity just to get views. No one has actually taken the more middle path and said, hey, maybe Jason has some valid arguments here and it's worth considering them. Let's have a conversation. Criticizing a company, especially one you love, does not mean you've turned your back on them. In fact, it can often mean the opposite. You care deeply enough to allow your emotions to show through as you discuss, which seems to make pro-Apple folks even more upset and those who are against Apple even more gleeful. That is the meeting point where this toxicity enters. There's no room for discussion. I give my honest opinion, and some people aren't willing to accept that, so they try and reduce my content down to just for the views. And if I'm positive, it's because I'm in the tank for a company, say Apple or anybody else, and they're paying me, which Apple does not do for anyone as far as I know. Guess what? Everyone on YouTube who puts out a video is making content to get the views. No one is putting out content on this platform for any other reason. When it comes to Apple and their fans, there's no real way to win, it seems, unless we can change this binary situation. This is also true on the Android side. Half the audience will crucify you if you're positive, and the other half will gut you if you're negative. Is no one actually interested in exchanging ideas about the pros and cons of their devices of choice, and maybe even working together to hold companies accountable? Companies like Apple? At this point, it seems the answer is no. And because of that, companies, especially Apple, have had free rein to do whatever they want to their customer base without any real consequences. For example, there's a possibility that ChargeGate may not just be caused by software, but in part because the 5-watt charger in the box is not powerful enough to initiate a charge. I came across a video by a YouTuber named ASBYT. I don't know what that stands for. He showed that the charging issues he was encountering could be replicated with the 5-watt charger, but when he switched to a more powerful charger, the issue was gone. I'll leave a link so you can check that out. It may be that Apple caused ChargeGate by cheaping out, again, and continuing to give us the same charger that's come with iPhones since the early days of iPhones, instead of giving the customer the fast charger that they already manufacture. Why do they do that? Because their consumers have shown over and over that they are willing to pay extra for features that other manufacturers include with the purchase of the phone. So Apple customers who want fast charging have to put out $70, and they do. So what's the incentive for Apple to package that charger in the box if they know that a certain percentage of their customers will pay extra money to buy it anyway? There is none. That's where I try and create a conversation where we can discuss holding the company accountable for cash grabs like that, but often my intentions are dismissed or misconstrued. It seems like in the toxic environment of Apple discussions on the internet, I can't be both an Apple fan and a critic of the company. Now, some of you are out there saying, there he goes again, bashing Apple. But wait, have you ever asked yourself if you actually deserve these features as an Apple customer buying these products? Every other manufacturer that has fast charging as a feature provides a fast charging brick in the box, but yet Apple, the most premium of all manufacturers, cheaps out and sells you less for more money. And by and large, people seem to think it's okay. Why? Do you think it's okay? Really? Are you okay with spending $70 more to take advantage of a feature that every other mobile phone company includes with the purchase of the phone? A lot of people have given me crap for buying an iMac Pro while being critical of Apple and their newest iPhones. But there's a huge difference between those two products. The iMac Pro doesn't require me to make any sacrifices whatsoever to get the device that I want and need to do what I need it to do. With the iMac Pro, for my use case, there are no compromises. So for me, that justifies the price. It's not so with the iPhone. You have to accept that they took away the headphone jack if you want an iPhone, even though they clearly did it to recoup their $3 billion investment in a headphone company that they purchased just before they released the iPhone 7. It wasn't because they had courage. It wasn't because they saw a need. They needed to make money on headphones, and so they took away the headphone jack. You have to accept that they charge you extra for features that other manufacturers include in the purchase price, which is often a lot lower than Apple's purchase prices. Some of you will listen to this and be inclined to defend Apple, but why? What loyalty do they have to you that demands your loyalty in return? Don't we as consumers deserve better? Is it not okay to ask for that, to campaign for that? I think we do deserve better, and that's why I do what I can to start conversations that holds companies like Apple accountable. It saddens me to know that seemingly a majority of people out there will discount my arguments or the arguments of other creators as self-serving attempts to gain something from the YouTube system. And for those channels like Taylosive Tech or John Morrison or other folks who typically praise Apple, they are actually wrong about what they're saying because they're brainwashed or they're shills or maybe even stupid or whatever it is that you think you know about them. This conversation, whether positive or negative, has to start with us. But for it to make a difference, it has to be picked up and engaged by you, the viewer. At this moment, the environment around these discussions is so toxic, so dismissive, that we have created a void where Apple and other companies can continue with business as usual. And for my part, I think we deserve better. I think you deserve better. But we won't get it until we stop fighting and accusing and start talking. Thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech, so honest, it hurts. Until the next time, I'm